The episode begins with a young girl crying and pleading with a boy named Haru not to leave her. Haru assures the girl, Mai, that he will return for her when he is older and marry her so they can always be together. Next, we see a teenager on a bus who notices a little girl staring at him just moments before the bus driver loses control and crashes into a train on the tracks. The scene transitions to a boy with long hair waking up on the floor of a wooden house. He becomes panicked as he realizes he doesn't recognize his surroundings. The story then reveals a walled town known as the Kingdom of Beltram. The boy starts to recall memories as Haru, the teenage boy. However, he also believes he is someone named Ryo. His memories are conflicting, and he is uncertain about what is happening to him. He remembers being on the bus but has no understanding of what a bus is. Suddenly, 3 men enter the room and refer to him as Ryo. It seems that Ryo had a severe fever the day before. The men sit at a table and begin to eat, while one of them instructs Ryo to wash up. Ryo leaves the house and goes outside to gather berries for sustenance. He recalls his acquaintance, Haruto, who resided in Japan but tragically passed away in a bus accident. However, Ryo doesn't fully grasp the concept of an accident. He then recollects that he is Ryo, living in impoverished conditions from a bygone era, driven by a desire to avenge his mother. A memory of his mother surfaces, where she informs him that they originated from a distant place called Yagumo. She had promised to take him there one day to meet his grandparents as he grew older. Yet, he is also haunted by the tragic memory of witnessing his mother being murdered by a man. Ryo wipes away his tears and dons his shirt, preparing to depart. A group of women, accompanied by girls in uniforms, approach. The girls appear frightened of Ryo. The women inquire whether he has seen a girl with light purple hair. One of the girls asserts herself, expressing dissatisfaction with his response. Her name is Celia, and she introduces herself to Ryo. As she walks towards him, Ryo reciprocates by introducing himself. He informs Celia that he hasn't encountered the girl with purple hair. The woman suggests to Lady Christina, one of the girls, that they should change their attire to blend in with the locals of the slums during their search for the purple-haired girl. The woman instructs Celia to investigate the area for any magical traces, prompting Celia to employ a search spell that surprises Ryo. Suddenly, a blue aura envelops Ryo, indicating an overflow of magical power within him. Celia recognizes his potential for magic and, along with the other women, compensates him for the information provided by giving him a bag filled with silver coins. Ryo discreetly conceals the bag and hurries towards his house. Upon entering, he is ambushed by a man dressed in black who attempts to stab him. Fortunately, the bag of coins acts as a shield, preventing the knife from reaching Ryo and saving him from harm. The man shuts the door and advances towards Ryo. Taking note of the 3 unconscious men in the room, Ryo scans his surroundings. Just as the man is about to strike again, a girl with a pink aura materializes, offering to teach Ryo how to harness his magical abilities. The blue aura once again engulfs Ryo, as the girl instructs him to use it to strengthen his body. The aura reveals the image of Haru. In response, the man activates his own magic, launching an attack against Ryo. However, utilizing his extraordinary magical powers, Ryo manages to defeat his assailant. Suddenly, a girl inside a bag cries out for help. Ryo opens the bag to find a girl with purple hair. She implores Ryo to escort her to the castle, where her father will reward him. Upon discovering one of the men dead, the girl faints. With the girl on his back, Ryo proceeds towards the castle, catching the attention of the women and Celia. Celia rushes towards Ryo and reprimands him for deceiving them. Lady Christina believes that Ryo has abducted Flora, her younger sister. Ryo attempts to explain himself, but Christina continues to provoke and physically assault him. In his attempt to free himself, Ryo inadvertently grips Christina's hand too tightly. This prompts the woman to draw her sword and demand that Ryo release her and continue his account. Ryo is then instructed to proceed to the castle to share his story. A man named Sir Alfred, accompanied by a group of soldiers, is near the house. They discover a man who is still alive and take him away. It is the man who attacked Ryo. Another individual wearing a black hood witnesses the attacker and crushes a stone in his hand. Suddenly, the attacker collapses and dies. The hooded person departs from the scene. Ryo is taken to a prison and suspended by his hand while vice captain of the Knights, Charles Arbor, listens to his story. Charles accuses Ryo of kidnapping Flora, but Ryo denies it. Charles proceeds to strike Ryo with a bat. Princess Flora awakens and learns about Ryo. She promptly summons him. Meanwhile, in the prison, Charles continues to torture Ryo in an attempt to extract the truth from him. However, Rio has already divulged all he knows. A woman arrives and escorts Rio away to Flora. Rio awakens in a bed with Celia beside him. Celia explains that she healed him using magic and apologizes for her previous actions. She informs Rio that the king wishes to express his gratitude for what he has done. Rio asks Celia if she could instruct him in proper etiquette before meeting the king, to which she agrees. When Rio arrives, the king and all the princesses are already present. Rio is dressed in royal attire and has had his hair trimmed. He approaches the king and kneels down. Celia offers to teach Rio how to read and write, as he is unfamiliar with these skills. She warmly welcomes him to the Royal Academy. The king has granted Rio enrollment as a token of appreciation for saving his daughter. Rio introduces himself to the class, but some of the children mock him. Celia serves as their teacher, and the lesson begins. After class, Rio seeks Celia's assistance for a tutoring session in writing and reading. Her house is filled with books. Celia reveals that she is 12 years old and skipped grades to graduate from high school. Rio manages to impress Celia with his intelligence, quickly grasping everything. Suddenly, Rio recollects his previous life as Haru, a university student. Celia and Rio spend more time together, discussing how Rio is adjusting to his new life. The following day, during combat training, the instructor asks Rio to strike him however he wants. Haru used to practice martial arts, and Rio suddenly recalls his training. He begins attacking the instructor and impresses everyone except for one jealous boy. The instructor comments that Rio would make a great knight, but Rio is not interested, which surprises everyone. Rio diligently studies in the library, striving to achieve the best possible grade, despite being a new student at the academy. The next day, they take their exam, and Rio seems to be performing well. Suddenly, Rio remembers Mai, the girl from his previous life whom he promised to marry. The grades are released the following day, and Rio is at the top of the class, surpassing even Lady Christina. The jealous boy from earlier accuses him of cheating, but Celia disproves these claims. The jealous boy becomes upset and leaves. Later, Rio and Celia sit down for tea and conversation. Rio tells Celia that she is his friend, surprising her. 5 years pass. One day, during combat training, the instructor calls out 3 primary school representatives for the nightly tournament, and 2 of them are Rio and the jealous boy named Rodden. Rodden objects to the instructor's decision, as he believes Rio, being from a lower class, cannot use any magic. Later, Celia and Rio have a conversation, during which Rio reveals his plan to go on a journey after graduating. He expresses his desire to visit his parents' homeland, Yagumo. Celia is familiar with Yagumo and describes it as a place at the edge of wilderness. The day of the tournament arrives, and Rio is the first to fight. His opponent is the person who previously tormented him, Charles Arbor. Rio's fighting style is completely different from the traditional style everyone employs. They engage in an intense battle, but Rio manages to gain the upper hand and emerge victorious. As Rio exits the battle arena, he is cheered on by the crowd. Later, we see Charles sharing a drink with the hooded man who killed the attacker 5 years ago. Charles recounts the story of Rio and how he ended up at the academy. The next day, Celia spots Rio walking somewhere and wonders where he is headed. She catches sight of Rio with a girl who gives him something and compliments him on his fight. The girl suddenly runs away, leaving Celia teary-eyed.